Anyways, what were you saying about Kandahar?
Were you the designer for the Kandahar skydiving team T-shirt that came out?
No, I don't think so.
I
I didn't see that one.
made Oh, it was like it was the C-17 or the C-5 that was taken off, and
Oh, I do
yeah, the
remember
guys were
seeing
like
that one.
falling off. Yeah, it was like national news, and I was like, "Ooh,
That one's a
whoever came up
little
with that one, that
that
was
one
a little rough."
that's a little aggressive for. I like towing the line some, but that's a little aggressive. I remember watching that like minutes after it happened because I was on Twitter and I was just scrolling through Twitter and it was like all of a sudden the video started getting posted to Twitter and I'm like, what the fuck,
Well,
dude? That shit was so crazy. Like watching that, like I don't know what those dudes were thinking if they thought that maybe the plane would stop or what, but it didn't. And when it didn't, it's like, why didn't you jump off before it took off? And then, man, that's so
I don't
fucking
know. I mean,
crazy.
you've been overseas. You got to hang out with those people. I don't know that there's a whole lot of them. I remember we brought in the Iraqis for Operation Iraqi Freedom, right? We trained the freedom fighters in Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
and then we brought them into Talil Air Base. First time these guys had ever been on a plane, like, and they were half of them were throwing up. The other half were like, that was the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. They had all these cameras, they're taking pictures. And dude, I don't think those guys have any idea that, you're going to freeze to death if you decide to hang on to this plane, even if you don't get it
Yeah,
off. Yeah.
they just found. I saw it in the news the other day. They just found somebody in a wheel well that had gotten on a plane. They survived though. They somehow survived, like barely.
That's
Flying from a
crazy.
plane from Africa. I think it was into Europe. I don't think it was into the U.S. But yeah, stowaways like that, dude. I mean, fuck, that shit was crazy. Watching that on TV, watching the, I don't know, man. That whole meltdown of Afghanistan was like such a disgraceful thing for like I think the entire country should feel a little shame about how that went down. And but no, it's kind of there's people trying to keep it in the news, like us talking about it right now and stuff like that, or trying to remind people, that this occurred and not let people forget about it. But that's one of those things where that didn't have to be like that. Like, okay, it's cool.
No,
You want to
yeah.
withdraw, that's fine. But the plan you're planning fucking sucked. Like imagine, well, yeah, let's take the one runway in the middle of a city of millions of people rather than the Bagram airfield that's a secured airfield where you can process people that actually were supposed to get out of there. It's so crazy. It's a disgrace, really. And I felt when those Marines and that soldier got killed, I think it was more than one soldier, Corman.
Yeah.
Um, there was a few, when they got killed, I was like, this is so crazy and just did not need to happen. And I just anyone that's been on a MEU, which is the Marine Expeditionary Unit, and apologies for starting the podcast off like this, but like anyone that's been on a MEU, it's like one of those things where you're like constantly like, be ready, something could happen, something can happen. And most of the times, nothing happens. You're on the MEU, fucking wishing to get off the ship. You're floating around, and those dudes and those guys and girls got called in for real. And I know what that, they went from one day being on their ship chilling, nothing's going on, to suddenly, hey, we got this thing going on, and now they're, out there doing what they're supposed to do. And just to have, I don't know, just to have what happened happen is such a disgrace. It's pretty fucked up. But did
Yeah,
you?
I wrote an article about it that got picked up by Havoc Journal because, and I'm in full transparency. I wasn't an Afghanistan
I was about
guy.
to
I
ask
was
that.
all
I couldn't
Iraq.
remember.
Yeah, but it was like all that lip service about we're there for the people and we're helping and we're, mission first. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, we're just going to kind of wing it on the way out. It's like, oh, dude. Like, if you ever feel bad about yourself, just know that you didn't spend trillions of dollars in 20 years just to give the Taliban back Afghanistan. Like, I feel like my life's a little bit better when I put that perspective on it.
Yeah, it's a real again such a fucking bummer. Like the way that occurred. I personally think that we should have left some sort of residual force behind um, to help maintain something. Like try to keep the government going. If it, I mean, maybe it was completely impossible. Maybe when we pulled out the last of the people, someone's like, it's going to be 6 weeks before and then the Taliban's going to take over. And I'm like, 6 weeks? It's going to be 6 days. And this is before everything at the airfield. And I only say that because I remember being the last advisor team to Sengen. We were the last advisor team, and then there was 3-4 was there. They got there about a third of the way through our deployment, and they were there for a little bit longer after us. And then the Americans weren't in that area anymore. And within like a year, I think I started getting one of the guys on my advisor team sent me like a YouTube video of the bazaar just empty, it fucking destroyed and stuff. And this is where everybody would shop and it'd be always busy, always, stuff going on. But ISIS had taken over.
Yeah.
So I wasn't I've said this on the podcast before, I wasn't as surprised as a lot of people that it happened, especially at the speed that it happened. But that doesn't mean that it's right. You know what I'm saying? It's so fucked up. But
well, and not to pontificate about it too long, so we can get into some other stuff that's a little bit more lighthearted, but we knew that they were advancing. Because if the media knew they were advancing, then I guarantee that we had something up in the air that could see where they were at, and everybody was like, "No, it surprised us all." And it's like, dude, it couldn't have surprised you when you have that big of a troop movement, moving from one place to the other, and then be like, "I didn't think they'd be able to take the city that fast." And you're like, "What are you talking about? You watched them. You watched that's like watching your son come up to you with a baseball bat and hit you in the crotch with it, and be like, I didn't know that was coming."
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of see it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. There was I had a guy on, and I forget his name, and I apologize for that. Thomas Gathright. He was on episode 122. He was a Marine infantryman, and then he became a contractor, and he went over as a medic. And he said he got there like the troops had pulled out and shit was going on, and it was like on the news you could already tell that the country's starting to fall apart. And he said he showed up in Kabul at the embassy as a contractor for the Department of State, and he said when he got there, they were just acting like it was business as usual. He's like, work requests were getting put out, people were doing their paperwork, they're building a structure, painting is happening. And then he said the day before the crazy withdrawal, that's when they finally were like, oh shit, start smashing everything with hammers. So it sounds like it was either just willful ignorance or I don't know, but it was completely fucked up. So people can go back and check that out. I also clipped that piece of the interview out specifically because of him describing the withdrawal and stuff like that. And he was on I think he was on one of the first flights that got pulled off or something. But yeah, dude, it's so fucked up. I mean, we still have guys in Iraq. We still have people in Iraq. So I don't understand why we couldn't have kept some people there. Maybe we don't see any reason to. I guess, but now the Taliban controls it, so yeah.
There wasn't a right answer, but we found the wrong answer.
The wrongest of the wrong answers was, hey, let's do this the worst way possible and get people killed on the way out. I mean, and it's dangerous. A pullout's always going to be dangerous. But again, like if they would have used Bagram out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere with walls and shit and not a million people that you can't control, like that's just insane. And then again, it would have been so much easier. You could have still brought in like the MU and stuff as a vetting force to help vet people that are supposed and put it out like, hey, if you're supposed to, if you're contact your contacts and be like, hey, if you're supposed to get out with the U.S., come with us now or come to this area. And then they could be vetted rather than trying to vet them along with a million people from the city that are just trying to get out before the Taliban takes over. I don't know. But yeah, we're still in Iraq. I mean, you went to Iraq, so we've had like 100 and something attacks over the last 3 months in Iraq. This hasn't been on the news, which is pretty wild that they did put it on the news. I think it was on Christmas or the day after Christmas. There was a rocket attack and 3 U.S. service members were injured. No one has talked about one of those guys is in a coma. He took a piece of fragment through the head and is in a coma and is, like it's not like he blew out his eardrums or something like that. That's a dude that might, I don't know if he has or not. I don't want to speculate, but there's shit happening over there that people don't even realize and it's not being covered very much. So I don't know, man. What are your thoughts?
Well, what they do or what they've done is they've privatized these places like the Ukraine, Syria, Iraq. A lot of that is contractors. They're part of the State Department, right? If we have an embassy, but you don't hear a whole lot about it unless a soldier gets hit. If a soldier gets hit, it's news. There was a private military contractor in Syria that got killed. I don't know, probably a couple months ago. It made a blip on the news, and then that was it. So it's one of those things where when you privatize it, you have the ability to distance yourself, right? If you got a soldier over there, you are absolutely like that's your soldier. But then you say, oh, we contracted Triple Canopy, and then Triple Canopy contracts a subcontractor, and then at the end of the day, they say, oh yeah, no, that was just a random guy that was hanging out in the streets of Iraq because who wouldn't want to hang out in Baghdad?
Yeah, they have no requirement to answer to the American public and stuff about someone getting killed overseas like that. So I don't know, you may know this right now with the contractors that are over there. Is it like Iraq was, where there's like security contractors? Like we had mechanics that worked when my first deployment was to Iraq. I was a mechanic still. I hadn't lat moved yet, and there was a lot of old dudes there that were working as mechanic contractors, you know? So there's a lot of like logistic contractors and stuff. People may not realize they hear contractor and think that it's security and stuff like that, but there's a lot of jobs that get contracted out.
Oh yeah, I mean the people that pump the gas, the mechanics, the people that were cooking food, the ones that wash the laundry, you name it. Those are all considered private military contractors. But everybody wants to think it's like the Blackwater guys, but I guarantee they're all over there. Mm-hmm. You could go on to like Constellas.com or Triple Canopy's owned by Constellas, and you can see that they have those jobs that are available. And it's not just, us security guys that were out there. I mean, the mechanics are like, in their mid-50s, cigarette hanging out of their mouth, just walking around. And you're like, no, can I just borrow your ratchet? And they're like, no, that's mine. That's my ratchet. Like,
yeah, dude. That's exactly how they were. They were good old boys that found themselves in Iraq turning wrenches on fucking trucks. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like Boeing, it's KBR, it's anybody that manufactures something like Lockheed Martin. You have to have your mechanics out there that are, not doing a whole lot, and you're like, dude, I just need a screwdriver. I just need to like clean my fingernail, and they're like, don't you touch my screwdriver.
Yeah, that's funny, man. That is exactly how those dudes were, the mechanics we worked with in TQ. Yeah, there are those jobs out there. Someone reached out to me when the whole thing in Ukraine kicked off and was talking about they were looking to put teams together to go in and pull people out. Like I don't know if they were VIPs or who, but it was like, and I don't know how serious this offer was, but it was like $1,500 a day to go in and do this. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, thanks for thinking of me. I feel I'm a little outside the game now. I don't think I could go jump on something like that, but I appreciate the offer. Like, I don't know. Did you get anything like that? Do you still, you talk about being contracting. So are you blackballed?
No, I'm not blackballed. But I'm not dumb enough to go chase the dragon anymore. So I remember in 2005, my buddy was like, hey, there's a contract coming up in Africa. Yeah. We're running diamonds. And I was like, dude, you're just going to be dead. And he's like, it's $1,500 a day. You have air support on the convoy. Like, it'd be fine. And I was like, if they're offering you $1,500 a day, that tells you how crazy it is.
Yeah.
Like, anything above 350, you're starting to get into that crazy area. But 1,500, like, you don't have any support. And that's the thing with PMCs is they didn't have a lot of support anyway, right? We had the little birds at Blackwater, but you couldn't just call Big Army or the Marines if something happened. It was like, hey, we got lost in downtown Baghdad. And they'd be like, take a left.
Yeah, see, that was always, until our last interview that we did together, that was always a misconception that I guess I had, was I thought that the contractors were working obviously with Department of State, but I thought they did planning and stuff with the military and had like military support. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought not maybe direct support like obviously the soldiers and stuff and Marines have, but some kind of agreement there. But that really didn't exist, right?
No, and that's one of the biggest gripes. So when I got done contracting, I went into the ROTC and I commissioned, and everybody, when they found out I was a contractor, was like, oh, I remember Blackwater. You guys were romping down the street and I almost shot you. And I was like, first off, there was a lot more than just Blackwater there. You had DynCorp, you had Aegis, you had Custer's Battles. I mean, my God, you want to talk about a terrible name, Custer's Battles.
There's a contracting company called Custer's Battles.
There was in 03, 04. They ended up getting a bunch of fraud charges against them, but like we had no idea where Big Army was until they rolled up on us, or until we rolled up on them. And half the time, they'd move their 240 Bravo over towards us, and we'd be like, "No, it's us." Take a little American flag, fling it out the window, but yeah, absolutely no coordination. And when I went back into the military, I was like, I can understand why you guys would be pissed, because I had an intel team. I had a small little AO up in northern Iraq or northern Baghdad, where Saddam Hussein got hanged, and you would just have contractors that would just drive in and be like, "All right, we're here for lunch." And you're like, "What are you doing up here?" I don't know. It's like, well, now I get why everybody hated our guts.
Yeah. I remember, again, back when I was a mechanic on that first deployment, there was like a British guy who would come out to our maintenance bay, and he'd always bring us a flat of Starbucks coffee and be like, "Hey, can you do this to my vehicle?" Because he had some kind of like Ford Ranger or something like that was, up armored, whatever. I don't remember what exactly the vehicle. It was some SUV that was up armored, not a Ranger. And we would like change the oil and do some stuff for him, and he would hook us up with that. And technically we weren't supposed to, but it was like, we didn't care. We're like, "Hey, dude, you're out there doing shit. Like, good luck. I'm gonna help. I'll change your oil for you, or whatever."
Yeah, we'd be like,
"Hey,
we need a big old bumper on this Humvee," and we just hand over this bottle of Jack Daniels, and they'd be like, "Pick it up tomorrow." You're like, "This is the fastest you mechanics have ever worked. What are you talking about? I couldn't get a screwdriver 2 minutes ago."
Yeah, they don't mind. Yeah. They don't mind. They don't mind getting the hookup. I don't know, pay to play or whatever. The military is crazy because, I mean, it probably changed a lot from the time you were there, because you were there early on. For those that haven't listened to the earlier episode, you were there in the invasion, right, with the Air Force, and then got out, went contracting in 04, I believe, right, or 03, 04. Okay, so
04, 05, yeah.
Okay, so you were early days of Blackwater. And that is also when like these bases became more established, and there's like a Burger King trailer is now there or whatever, and people. There was a general that came in, I think around 2010 or 11. I can't remember who it was, and I think it was in Afghanistan. And he's like, "We got to get rid of all this shit. No more Pizza Hut fucking trailer, no more Burger King trailer." People were outraged. Like, think of the troops, and I'm like with him. I'm like, dude, what are we doing where we're so established? We have like an outpost with fucking, not really an outpost, these bigger air bases that have like a Pizza Hut you can go to and stuff like that. You're like, I don't know. That's when you start thinking like, oh, the military industrial complex. This is crazy.
Yeah. You could understand the Pizza Inn, right? There was a one in the green zone. They called it the Pizza Inn.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had like the legit Pizza Hut, the Burger King. They had like, whatever the Starbucks equivalent was.
Oh, green
big
bean.
Bases. Yeah, the green bean coffee.
I would always get the Moab.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Hey,
or Moab.
Let's go get ourselves a green bean coffee." And I was like, "Dude, I'm at like this tiny JSS, and all I get is like fried, disgusting food. Like, let's just go to the chow hall." And then you walk in there, and it's like all this fresh fruit that I haven't seen in months.
Yeah.
And I'm like a chipmunk, man. I'm like stuffing my cheeks with pieces of mango and pineapple. And then you do come to realize that it's become a self-licking ice cream cone at those large bases. Here's the other thing that pissed me off about the large bases. When people would send stuff to the troops, those guys at the big bases would be the ones that got it. And it never trickled down to us that were actually out there. Mm-hmm. It was like you got like the tropical fruit Jolly Ranchers instead of like the nice green apple ones, right? It had been rat fucked so hard by the time it got to you. You're like, "Oh man."
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe in Iraq for sure. In Afghanistan, when we got there, our advisor got there in 2013, so everything was pretty well established. And I remember we rolled in, and there was those pallets that they'd use, those cardboard pallets that they'd build for or whatever, just full of like Otis Spunkmeyer muffins and all this bullshit, because our team got the equivalent of like what a company or something was supposed to get, and it's only like 18 of us, and none of us were eating any of that shit. So we had Pop-Tarts and all this crap. And I remember we were leaving, and we told the dudes from 3-4, we're like, "Hey man, we got all this shit over here. You guys want it?" and it was the rat fuck. It was like a fucking crowd of Marines like getting all the double chocolate Otis Spunkmeyer, like
Yeah. No, I think that's how it was everywhere. You'd be like, they had that Special K berry cereal. I think it was like they had the strawberry one. I can't eat that stuff to this day because I lived off of it at JSS Justice. My wife loves it, so she brings it home, and I'm like, maybe I'll try it. I tried it once and was like, nope, this is bringing back too many horrible memories of disgusting food.
Yeah, we didn't have too much. And when I was in Iraq, it wasn't bad at all. I was on TQ on Al Taqaddum Air Base, so we had a chow hall. And nobody can complain. If you're on an air base, you cannot complain about food because the food is always good. Like those dudes, I think they're all like Indian dudes that they bring in, make fucking real good food. And they would make curry too, and that shit was always good too. I remember what they have, the Mongolian barbecue. There would always be a massive line to get Mongolian barbecue.
I had chicken curry when I first got to Baghdad, and it's in the book. And it gave me the Baghdad bug so bad.
Oh, no way.
That's another thing I just can't eat anymore. Is that chicken curry, the yellow stuff where you're just like, oh my God.
That's a bummer. Man, I like curry. I like Indian food, for the most part. So, dude, so what's up with the book? Did you write another book, or you said you're updating your book?
So I updated the book. The last one was called Welcome to Blackwater. This one's called Guns, Girls, and Greed. I was a Blackwater mercenary in Iraq. And it's got a lot of the same content, but a lot of things happened since I released the book. First is like you're sitting there talking to people and they say, remember when we did this and we did that? And you're like, oh, crap. I should have put that in the book. I totally forgot about it. So I updated it with some of those stories. And then the Matt Marshall thing that I got on TikTok to talk about, where the former Blackwater contractor bilked this billionaire out of millions of dollars. We can get into it in depth, but I put that into the book. And then just, like I updated one of the stories because there was a widow of one of the Blackwater guys that was like, what the hell are you guys? That's not how I was told it happened. And I was like, then you tell me what happened, because I don't want to be the guy that's like pissing you off.
Yeah.
So I left the original story in there and then went through like how the AAR went, because I got a copy of the AAR and said, hey, this is what I was told from a friend, and this is like the true story behind it. But yeah, it's added like 30% more content. It's out there on Amazon for pre-order right now.
Nice, man.
Face punch guarantee. If you don't like it, punch me in the face. That's fine.
I liked it. I read it before our last interview. It's again, I didn't know this. I didn't really know too much about private military contracting. Like everybody in the military knows. You hear about it. Maybe know somebody that got out and does it now. But no one, it's one of those things. Unless you do it, you don't know the ins and outs. One thing that surprised me that we talked about last time was that I thought that it was all like SEALs and Green Berets and freaking recon guys that were getting pulled for that. And initially it was not necessarily, I mean, you were an Air Force, what security force, right? Yeah,
I was security forces, which they called the infantry of the Air Force, but you just sit there and stare at planes and go, oh, nobody stole it yet. We're good.
We're still good. Yeah. So that was like a myth and then the other thing too, was I thought that, you guys would have like basically your choice of weapons and all this other stuff, and really it's, from the way you made it sound like M4, M9, or not an M9, but I guess technically it was an M9, wasn't it?
No, it was a Glock 9.
Oh, Glock.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, it just kind of, I guess, brought it back down to earth for me. It's one of those things like when you're outside, you're like, that sounds cool. I bet they do cool stuff. I bet it sounds, but the reality is much different, right?
Yeah, we were making a run down to Al Hilla from Baghdad, and like it comes every once in a while, you just get smacked in the face by how insane it is, or at least it was, right? Blue Force Tracker came out a little bit later, and you were able to kind of track yourself and communicate through that. But when you got to the outskirts of Baghdad, it was radio silent. You couldn't get a hold of anybody out Hilla, couldn't get a hold of anybody out in Baghdad. Like it was just you. There was 3 or 4 Suburbans. And I was stuck in the trunk of one of them. And I was like, dude, if something happens, what are we going to do here? We're just going to drive to the nearest little bridge where Do you remember when they had like the little trolls under the bridge? It was like the army and the marine guys that would live underneath the overpasses on some of those larger routes.
Oh, I didn't, dude. I was a mechanic. That I was
Yeah,
on base the whole time in Iraq. But
yeah.
I've
So it
heard
was
I
like,
heard what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, it was like, all right, so that if something happens, we'll turn around to that overpass until you get to another one, and you're like, okay, now we're gonna go forward to the next. I mean, we just made it up as we went, and it like looking back, it was insane, but at the time, it was just like, I guess this is how you do it.
Did you guys carry any kind of explosives, or were you just carrying? I know you said you carried like a 240 or a saw. You know, there was different weapons available, but did you ever have any explosives?
So you could get them pretty easy. It wasn't that difficult to get laws and grenades and all that other stuff. So there were some Blackwater people that would carry that stuff. It wasn't really my gig. Like, what the heck am I going to do with a mortar? Am I going to hold it out the window and be like, stay back?
Yeah.
So they were really easy to get a hold of. It was never really my gig. It's the same thing with like AK-47s and burner pistols and all that stuff. You can get that stuff on the local market all day, but what are you going to do with it? Like,
Yeah. Well, I figured if you're in an ambush, it wouldn't be bad to have a law or an AT4 or something. But I mean, it'd be better to have it given to you, by the Department of State or the military rather than procuring one, because I'm sure it's not looked upon, very well if you get found with one.
Yeah, they're like, "How'd you get out of that?" And you're like, "We just took this law." "Where'd you get that?" "Oh, I traded it for booze. At this base at Cop Cash down south of Baghdad, and they just gave me whatever I wanted because I had Jack Daniels."
Dude, every time, real quick, for people watching, every time you give a thumbs up, it like puts up a thumbs up symbol. It must be your phone. It like throws a little thumbs up bubble. That's so funny. Or yeah, thumbs up. Oh, look at that! It just shot fireworks.
Look at that!
I've never seen that before. I thought maybe that was a new Skype thing.
No, I thought somebody else was giving me a thumbs up.
That's hilarious.
Dang, that just hurt my ego.
Oh, yeah, we're not live. Yeah, we're not live. That's funny. The people listening are like, what are you guys talking about? You have to watch. You have to go on YouTube and check it out. Yeah, dude. So let's get into it. What happened with the FBI? What was that like? You got investigated, or you were part of an investigation?
So I was a witness in an investigation. So I wrote the initial book, and a Blackwater dude reaches out to me and he's like, "Hey, do you know who's in these pictures?" And I was like, "Dude, come on. Like, you know who I am. I know who you are. We know what each other looks like." And he's like, "No, we're really looking to figure out who these guys are." And he said it was for authenticating Blackwater guys. And I was like, "Well, it's me, and like three of the pictures is me." And he's like, "Oh, the FBI wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, geez." Because Blackwater was pissed off at this time that I wrote a book. They were threatening to sue me and make my kids homeless. Like, they were real buttholes about this thing. And then it's like, "Oh, the FBI wants to talk to you." And it's like, it must have been right after the Raven 23 guys got pardoned. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what could they possibly want?
Yeah.
So Matt Marshall, we'll get to my part of the story, but what Matt Marshall did is Matt Marshall was a team lead over at Blackwater. Told everybody he was a recon Marine. He had the recon Jack tattoo. I don't know where it was on his arm, but he had that. And then he parlayed his time at Blackwater to kind of move up the chain, and he met this billionaire up in Whitefish, Montana. They met at SHOT Show. And he's like, "Hey, let me pitch this to you. We'll create a better Blackwater." And the billionaire is actually a pretty good dude. But he's like, "Yeah, let's do this. Like, I just kind of want to do good in the world. Let's get this done." So they create a company called Amintor. Amintor is the next Blackwater. They're going to be bidding on all these contracts. And Matt is like, "Okay, so we have all these contracts that we're going to be getting," which of course never came to fruition. And what we need to do, though, is the CIA reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we have like these black ops missions. The problem is you can't get through all the government bureaucracy to get money for these black ops missions, like saving children, hostage rescues. Like, I can do all that. I was that guy. I worked in the CIA. I was the guy that lays the target that hit al-Zarqawi. The movie Sicario was based on my life. On September 12th, they put me in a helicopter and sent me straight to Afghanistan. Like, all these outlandish things that guys like you and I would probably look at and go, this guy's probably lying. But I mean, the guy's got no military background, so he's eating it up with a spoon, and he's like, okay, well, here's I'm just making up numbers, but here's $500,000. Go down to South America and rescue those DEA agents. This was the time where Boko Haram had kidnapped all those girls. Like, what can we do about that? And Matt's like, dude, I got it, bro. But it's all super secret. You're never going to hear about it on the news, but I'll let you know when we're done. So what Matt would do is he would go down and do these missions. And then he would text the billionaire and say, oh, package secured, another great mission. And then he would get like a text from somebody at the CIA, and he'd show the billionaire like, hey, look, yeah, the CIA knows we do good stuff, so it's pretty awesome. Turns out he was texting himself. He had a bunch of burner phones and a bunch of different accounts where he would be like, this is the CIA account, and this is the guy that was on the mission with me, and he was taking the money and just going down to like have elaborate vacations and buy watches. So not only did the billionaire sink like $11 million into Amantor, but he gave Matt like $3.2 million to do these off-book missions. And
go ahead. Sorry.
I'll pause for the insanity. Like,
it is insane.
That's fair.
It is insane. Like, and it's crazy that anybody. I guess I see how he's using his. I see how he's using his credentials, because he was at Blackwater, to be like, no, I'm legit. Like, you can see, here's all my photo, So at some point he got some kind of credentials and he just blew it way out of proportion. That's so crazy.
And the best part is, so he was an infantry marine in the reserves, and he got kicked out for not showing up to drill. That's his only bona fides.
Wow.
He used that to become a police officer in Indiana. And then he started spouting his mouth off about how he was in Desert Storm and he got 2 silver stars. And this former Marine that he worked with was like, dude, they didn't give that many silver stars out, let alone 2.
So he started getting looked at.
Yeah. So he starts looking into him, and the police department starts looking into him. And then he scoots over to Blackwater and is able to sit there and say, I was a recon Marine. Look, I had to show my DD-214. Apparently his DD-214 was one of those ones that burned up in like that big fire in Oklahoma that you always hear about, but you have no idea what happened. So that's why he couldn't furnish his DD-214. And then once you get in, like, he was just in. Yeah. But then he started telling everybody he was the CIA and he was like the point person in Afghanistan, like literally September 12th, 2001. We didn't send anybody over. Newsflash. The U.S. government does not move fast enough to move people after September 11th on the next day, September 12th, into Afghanistan. Like, especially like this lone wolf mission. It's not just you. You have to go with some kind of a team.
What part of Indiana was he from? Do you know?
He was outside of Indianapolis because, dude, the guy was like the smoothest talker. So in a couple of the pictures, I'm wearing a Lowe's 48 Jimmy Johnson hat. And he's like, dude, every year I go and I do the Indy 500. I can get you pit passes. And like, oh, Morgan, you shoot really well for an Air Force guy. Like, I didn't expect that. Like, he would butter your donuts so deliciously that you would sit there and be like, oh, this guy's just a great dude. Like, I introduced him to literal Force Recon Marines that were there in like the 90s, and he buffaloed them. He buffaloed all the Generation Kill guys. Like, he could take a story that he heard and implant his name into it and be able to say, that's what I did. And these were the people I was with. Like, exceptionally intelligent guy. Never going to take that away from him. But a complete fraud.
It's crazy because I hear about people doing that, not to that level where they're bilking people of millions of dollars, but just to lie about their service, obviously stolen valor and stuff. What blows my mind is guys that served and then lie about their service. They're like, they didn't do enough or whatever, so they church it up and say that, oh, I was a recon guy, or oh, I was a Navy SEAL, and you find out now they're just like a bosun's mate, for 4 years and got out of the Navy or whatever. That's so crazy. I mean, especially in today's day and age where you can look up anybody, you can find information about anybody. And there's so many people that confront people. Have you heard of Don Shipley? You know who that is?
Oh yeah. Stolen Valor Navy SEAL guy.
Yeah, he just calls out fake Navy SEAL dudes all the time. It's like, I don't get how people don't. I don't know, man. I was down the street from me, there was a guy who I was walking back from the corner store. I'm here in the city. I was walking back from the corner store. There's this old dude wearing a Marine hat. And I was like, oh, what's up, man? I'd seen him around. And I was like, hey, man, you were in the Marines? And he's like, yeah, I was in Vietnam. I was a sniper, you know? And I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know? Like, and he's like, yeah, they used to send me in to kill generals, you know? And I was a lieutenant and like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then after a couple minutes of him saying crazy shit like that, I was like, yeah, dude, I was in the Marines from this time to this time. And he could kind of tell I wasn't buying his bullshit. And like ever since then, I've never seen that dude wear a Marine hat again. You know what I'm saying? I don't confront people, but like just asking them some questions and kind of, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get why people do it.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like we did some really cool stuff in Blackwater, right? Like, so we did the Regime Crimes Liaison Office. We were up in northern Iraq collecting evidence that was used against Chemical Ali in his trials. Like that in itself is just pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't have to like elaborate, but what he was doing is he would take those pictures of us in Sulaymaniyah, and dude, I mean, northern Iraq is not the same. Like rural Iraq is not the same as like the city, right? There's still mud huts. There's still like, you know, people that are crapping in the middle of the village, and there's water going down the middle. Yeah. So it's probably a lot like West Virginia. Sorry for anybody from West Virginia.
Sounds like Afghanistan, to be honest, you know?
Yeah. So he took those pictures of us and he's like, this is me in Afghanistan. This is me in Syria. This is me. And this is his defense. These are all me in different places, either working for the CIA. And that's how the FBI got in touch with me, because they said, hey, he's saying this is Iraq 2001 or Afghanistan 2001. And I'm like, dude, I was on active duty in 2001. So unless there's a doppelganger out there, and I had the same pictures on my computer. Yeah. So he had a picture where he's like standing in front of mud huts. I have literally the same picture that was taken maybe 30 seconds later. In the larger photos, you can see like the same lady is walking down a hill, and then she's walking over this makeshift bridge. Like, so that was my part of being a witness, is just blowing up his entire like background story of how he was in the CIA and did all this really cool stuff. That's
so crazy. Equally as crazy as a private citizen going, hey, I want to build my own private army to go do good around the world. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Start a charity. Like, don't hire mercenaries to go do whatever you think should be done. That's kind of wild too.
Well, that's the weird part, is like the guy that he built does a lot of stuff for charities, especially like around kidnapping and human trafficking and stuff. And he diverted this money to go and create like a better security force that he thought was going to do good, instead of putting that money towards like anti-trafficking nonprofits. And like, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, nobody wants to be sympathetic for a billionaire, but what Matt did is he thought that he was just going to be able to sue the guy and he'd pay him out. So he sued the guy for $300 million. But a guy with that much money is going to do one of two things. He's either going to get it off his chest, or he's going to, like, by paying you out, or he's going to fight. And to his credit, the guy fought and was like, I'm not paying this guy $300 million. Yeah. And then more and more just kept coming out about Matt and what he did or what he didn't do. And
they called his bluff. Discovery happened, and now.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's so crazy. I was gonna say, is that even legal to make your own little army? But there's already Blackwater and these other companies, so I don't know how. Do you know how that works? Like how the legalities of even starting like a private military contracting company is?
Dude, you would be probably shocked at how easy it is to create a private military contractor. Because what happens is you have those big dogs that are Constellus, and then they have Triple Canopy, and then Triple Canopy will subcontract, and then that gets subcontracted. And there's these little podunk security firms all over the US. And once a large company gets a contract, they subcontract it out. So right now, PMCs are down at the border. They're escorting minors, which I think is pretty much human trafficking, but the government pays for it. And they're subcontracting to another small one that is like posting stuff on Facebook. Hey, if you're interested in a job, let me know. It's like, dude, you're going on Facebook to like these security pages to just grab people that are going to take minor children, likely without a whole lot of documentation, to go to their abuela's house in Tennessee. Like, it's pretty sketchy, man.
I've seen some video. It's crazy because I just saw some videos of that the other day of a guy confronting a group in an airport, and it was a couple dudes that were escorting some minor migrant children, and he was like, "Who do you guys work for?" Like, and they were like, they had their badges, they like turned them around, like not like legal law badges, but like, you know, corporation badges, like turned them around, turned their, like, they had papers on like a clipboard, flipped them over so you couldn't see what company they were. There was a video where a guy was putting all these kids into a van. He put like 9 or 10 kids into a van, like no back seats, and just stuffing them back there in the U.S. at an airport. And this dude's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, stop. Who are you?" They got in front of the van. They got the police over there. And the guy was like, "Yeah, I'm working for the government. This is like a contract job that I'm doing." And it's like, people don't know this shit's happening, man. It's so crazy. And I know anyone that follows my Instagram, Former Action News, and in my stories on Instagram, I share news articles. I'm on Twitter all day long. I'm reading news. I post up stories I think are interesting. So go there to get like a quick overview of world news. But I always put migrant stuff on there. The illegal immigrant crisis in the U.S. is crazy. I live in San Diego. I'm 20 minutes from the border. In 3 months, they dropped 65,000 illegal immigrants off onto the San Diego streets in an area that is highly densely populated, overhoused, or there's not enough housing for even the people that live here. So here in San Diego, if you want a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at a minimum around $2,000 a month in rent. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of that is because our housing market in all these cities are being overpressured by these people, these illegal immigrants that are being brought in, and they're going to the most affordable housing. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to like more expensive housing. They're not going to these other neighborhoods. They're taking up the most affordable housing in a lot of these cities, and it's fucking over Americans. And I know that sounds fucked up. I'm all about immigration and stuff like that, legal immigration, and what we have right now, where 65,000 people in a 3-month period got dropped off, and that's half of the town I grew up in. That's half the town I grew up in dropped off in the streets in 3 months. You know, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Man. So I was actually just on the Green Line podcast. It's like the Border Patrol podcast.
Okay.
Great dude that runs it. And everybody gets all butthurt that people are saying, "Oh, it's an invasion. Oh, it's an invasion." And they're like, "It's not an invasion. These people are like here and they just want to work and stuff." Well, the problem is I started crunching numbers because I just wanted to see. The Iraq invasion was 160,000 U.S. service members. We brought in, just in the last 3 months of 2023, fiscal year 2024, they brought in almost 500,000 migrants over the course of 3 months.
It's crazy.
That is like over 3 times what it took for us to go in and take over Iraq, Afghanistan, like you name it. Like there's the influx of people. And dude, I would be on a train with my family tomorrow. So I'm not faulting those guys. But when you bring in that and you realize that it starts putting stress on your social services, it puts stress on those food banks, right? Like, where are these people getting food while they're trying to figure out they can't get legal jobs? You're creating a black market under the table pay
for sure
economy that is then not being taxed. Like there's so many more repercussions, and people look, I'm sympathetic to the people that want to come here and make a better life. But at the same time, like, at what expense? That's,
dude. They just said
quite literal.
They're allowing now free healthcare for illegal immigrants in California, whereas everyone. I'm lucky enough to have served in the military. I got beat up enough where I don't have to take care of my own medical anymore. I have VA healthcare, and I don't really have. I have like some back issues and stuff. I'm not like some people that have a lot of issues. I have issues, but not anything that's detrimental. So my reliance on the VA is just normal, like yearly checkups mostly, you know. But other people, I never really considered it because I've been in the military since I was, 20, 22. And I didn't really think about how much people are paying for healthcare until I got a job. And they were like, yeah, if you want health insurance, here's the monthly cost. It was like, just for me, it was like $200 a month or something. And I was talking to a girl and she was like, yeah, it's like $500 a month for me and my family. And I'm like, that's fucking insane, dude. And while you're making these people pay $500 a month, at the same time you're giving illegal immigrants free health care. And that's what's fucked up to me. And I'm like, that's crazy that we allow it to happen. And you brought up a good point about the under the table wages and stuff like that. Here's the thing. The people that are also saying that there's no issues here, illegal immigration is just migration, and it is what it is, you should deal with it, are also the same people that say the minimum wage is too low and that people aren't making enough money. But what happens when you're bringing in a workforce that will work for less, that automatically suppresses wages? So if we fix the immigration system, if we had more security at the border, and if we had more immigration judges to make this process go faster, we could bring in legal immigrants and pay them what they should be getting paid. I don't think someone should go work in a field for $5 an hour or something like that. I think that's fucked up. Guess what? As a teenager, I worked in a field. I worked in cornfields pulling tassels. It's a job called detasseling. Some people may know what I'm talking about. I did that for a couple years. So I know it sucks working out there in the field and stuff like that. And $5 an hour is kind of probably what I was making when I was like 16 years old or 15 years old or something. And I don't know. The way to fix that, the way to fix wages and shit like that, is by fixing the immigration system, bringing people in that want to work, but they're going to come in the correct way to do it. And we need them here. You know what I'm saying? Right now,
100%.
We're seeing illegal immigrants in Chicago protest because there's no job programs to get them jobs. It's like, dude, fuck off. You know what I'm saying? We got to get Americans jobs. And that's, again, I'm for it, but I don't know, man. It's such a fucked up, crazy thing.
Here's the other, so 2 points. One is that we don't have enough money to secure the border, but we sure as heck have enough money to pay private military contractors to move kids around the country. So that's crazy to me.
How big is that going? I mean, you just talked about this on the other podcast. How much is that occurring?
Everywhere where there is a port of entry has these people that are moving either minor children or family units across the United States. So when they bus people from Texas to Chicago, I think those people likely would have figured out how to get to Chicago anyway, right? They have friends there, they have family, something along those lines. Mm-hmm. But it put it into the spotlight. But it is the second biggest thing. The biggest thing right now is they just popped 4 people on a terrorist watch list. This is from a country in South Africa called the Islamic Republic of Mantinea, or something weird like that. It almost sounds like macaroni. So 50 of them come across the border, all single, all males. 4 of them pop on the terrorist watch list. Now, you've been overseas. You go to Iraq and it's like, okay, so if you look at Saddam Hussein, it's like Saddam Hussein, al-Mederi, al-Tikriti. Like, they have 5, 6, 7 names at any given time.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that there's an asset, a CIA or DIA or NSA asset over in the Islamic Republic of Macaroni that can identify these people to the point that when they come across, they say, oh, that's the right person.
Yeah.
Or, oh, this person spells his with an A instead of a U, so he's probably fine. It's not a big deal.
They say they're vetting them. There's no way.
They can't.
There's no way. And that's another thing. We set a record. I think it was last year. There was 200 and something people caught on the terrorist watch list. It was like 250 or something like that, which was like more than the previous like 4 administrations prior were caught in 1 year. And we don't even talk about, like, we know the numbers of the people that they're stopping and then mostly releasing into the country. We don't even talk about the gotaways and the people that they don't even know were gotaways. There's gotaways, so for those that don't know what that means, the numbers that you hear are the numbers that are encountered by the Border Patrol themselves. This like 3.4 million people or whatever in this administration are people that they've encountered and stopped and processed or whatever. There's a whole nother group of people that they saw on camera, but they didn't have resources to stop them. So they count them and go, well, there was 20 more people that got in today. And what they'll do is they'll flood these ports of entry. You see it in Texas and stuff like that, where they have thousands of people coming across a day. They flood that so that all the Border Patrol assets are getting pulled from everywhere else, and this is exactly what's happening. There's Border Patrol people and other people from the DHS getting pulled from their day-to-day jobs to go down to the border and process people. And while they're all focused on processing these large groups, there's huge open swaths of the border that are open that people are just coming across, and no one's stopping them. There's nowhere to, it's crazy. And I'm passionate about it, I suppose, because I'm right here next to the border, and it's directly affecting, the economy here in San Diego.
Yeah, well, and it's not new, right? So after September 11th, when all of our air assets were being diverted to go to Afghanistan and, get ready for war, what the drug cartels did in South America is they started moving all their product north, all those little islands and stuff, so that as soon as they had the opportunity, they could get into the U.S. When you divert all your assets to one location, it allows you as a drug cartel member to say, well, let's go over here then, right? I don't need to necessarily go to Florida. I could get this thing into Louisiana and I can move it there. Mm-hmm. So same thing with the cartels down in Mexico is they'll flood that border, the port of entry, and then they'll say, hey guys, with all your kilos on your back, how about you just pop out? Like, just go over the Sierra. So Fort Huachuca is Sierra Vista. They have like a mountain range right there. You walk around it and there's Pedialyte bottles, there's clothing that has been discarded. Like, you can see where people were like humping a backpack trying to get something into the U.S.
Yeah, that's the same thing here. If I go, there's an off-road trail here in San Diego. I can't remember what's the name of the mountain. It's the highest point in San Diego County. There's like a Jeep trail up there. And anytime I go over there, there's literally Border Patrol there with dudes lined up, cuffed. I see Border Patrol because you can see the border fence right there. And I took one of the first times I went there because I saw this like Jeep trail. I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me take my kid up there. And it's the highest point in the county, so let me bring a telescope. And we can, look at the moon or whatever. And I remember going up there and these Border Patrol guys like pulled up and they're like, what are you doing? Like, you're set up in like the busiest crossing point right now. And I was like, oh, really? And they're like, if you see someone, just don't fuck with them. Just let them keep going. And I'm like, and all night long while we're sitting there with the telescope, there's just Border Patrol SUVs going up and down the mountain snagging dudes. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy, dude. So
it is absolutely insane. That's what they told us. So they would go over the mountain and then they would go through Fort Huachuca and they'd be like, hey, if you see any illegals on the base, just let them go. Don't go try anything. It's not worth it. It's just like, this is federal land that you're walking across. Like, that's crazy.
When I was still in, we would go out to Gila Bend, however you pronounce it. It's there's a bombing range out there. And it's like right by the border. And they same thing. Like, if you see illegals, stop training and just call it in or something like that. But we're dropping live ordnance. We're doing A-10 gun runs. We're dropping ordnance off, F-35s and shit like that. This is a bombing range, and there's people crossing into the U.S. into this bombing range area. And it's like one of my team. I wasn't there at the time. One of my teams actually stopped the dude, and they believe afterwards they detained the guy. Even though they weren't supposed to, called the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol was like, "Yeah, that dude is probably just a coyote looking to." Because he was heading for, there's a phone. They have a phone on a hilltop that migrants can go and pick up and someone will come get them. They think he was a coyote that already released his people that he brought over and he was going to get a free ride back. It's like...
like think of all the unexploded ordnance that they're walking through.
It's so like, crazy. It's so crazy, man. It's just I don't understand why. This is where the conspiracy theorists start coming out and asking these questions. Like, why would we allow this to happen? Why would we let literally millions of people come into the country that we don't know who they are and would just release them? And why? And that's when all the conspiracy theorists start kicking up and people are like, oh, you're just conspiracy theorists. But it's like, dude, there's got to be a reason. We're basically we're helping the cartel fund themselves because we're just escorting these people that are all paying $10,000 a head to get passage by the cartel. We're just like, all right, come on across. Let's go. I don't know. I want to know what the why is. It's so insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great political talking point for both sides to be able to fundraise off. But like, if I'm the president of Mexico, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop people. They send money back down to Mexico when they get jobs up here.
Yeah, that's
Like
for sure.
that's a huge part of their economy. So, I'm
I just saw in the news today actually that the Mexican. So I think Anthony Blinken or somebody went to Mexico to talk to him about border
yeah,
security, and I guess they've partially started to reinforce their own border, and it's slowing down some of the passage here into the U.S. But I apparently the Mexican president said that he wants the U.S. to give $10 billion to South American countries and Caribbean countries, and or it might have been $20 billion. I can't remember the exact. It was billions of dollars, and then also give amnesty to 10 million illegal immigrants that are in the country right now. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like fuck this guy. Fuck the, you know, like whatever, man. It's crazy.
what I don't look, we already sent Kamala down there. Like, you don't need 20 billion for these countries. You had Kamala. Like, you're fine.
They keep saying they're trying to find the root cause and that it's got to be like, oh, it's economics and they're in danger and climate change and this and that. And it's like, dude, again, I'm all about we need immigrants in the country. It's just that is what it is. Like people that say we don't need any immigrants are idiots. Like we 100% need immigrants to come here and work, but they should be able to come and be part of the country, become a, you know, not come and bring their fucking issues with them. Not, I mean, look at these protests and shit that we're having over Gaza and bullshit like that. A lot of, you know, a lot of this shit is all kind of wrapped together. Some of these people are illegal immigrants as well. And it's just, it's crazy that we're allowing shit like this to happen in our country. You know what I'm saying? Like shutting down. There were people releasing balloons at the airport to try to stop air traffic in New York. They tried to shut down the airports. They blocked the roads and they were releasing balloons to try to stop air traffic. And I'm like, that, how is that not terrorism? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if you made a plane crash or something like that? I don't know, man. I'm sorry, I'm all worked up on like current politics stuff, but it's just very frustrating to see how it's going right now. You know?
Yeah, well, it's being done, you know, in plain sight is kind of the problem, right? Like, you probably didn't know that PMCs are running down there and running miners, but like
no, I didn't. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's been out. I think they've had contracts since like 2019 doing stuff like this. So it's not like it just happened. It's been happening for a long time, but nobody, you know, everybody kind of lives in their bubble. And my bubble just happens to be that I used to be a contractor. So when I hear stuff like, oh, the contractor that used to work for the CIA in Iraq is at the border, like, what the hell is going on? Well, especially with this stupid thing that I keep doing on accident.
Oh, the bubble? I don't worry about
the bubble.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't really know. I mean, I wonder what those contractors would say. Like, how can you get up and be okay with this? It's kind of like, I'm surprised we haven't seen more Border Patrol agents speak out, because there was a video that came out where they were all pissed off. They were talking to the Border Patrol chief or something like that, and there was a few of them that were speaking out and saying, you know, this is ridiculous. The border's not secure. We're escorting them. We're not even doing anything. And they got shut down pretty quick. I'm surprised there's not more of that from Border Patrol agents, because you're literally watching thousands and thousands of people come into the country and trash the border. I saw some video the other day of where they come in, they swim across the river, take off their clothes, put on a dry set of clothes, and all these just thousands of pieces of clothing all on the riverbed, just destroying the river. I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I could rant about this all day, just because, again, I'm right here in San Diego. I'm by the border. People, I keep up with it because I have to. You know, if you're in like Pennsylvania or if you're in like Montana, it may not seem like it affects you, and that's, you know, whatever, that's a thing. But this busing that the Florida governor and what's his name, Ron DeSantis, and the Texas governor Abbott have done has made it a forefront of a lot of people that were never affected by it. Now they're having migrants bust into their town, and they're like, wait, this isn't right. We've had 10,000 people show up, and it's like, well, that's one day for a border town. You know, that's like 1 or 2 days of people for a border town. How are they supposed to sustain? And you're bitching about it when you get, you know. But the Chicago mayor, I'm going to keep talking about this, I guess. The Chicago mayor has not called out the administration for allowing this to happen. He's out here talking about how in Texas that it's their fault and it's a white supremacy thing that they're busing people to Chicago, and instead of asking for the government to secure the border, he's requesting billions of dollars from the government. So they're using it as a money thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's just fucking wrong, man. And I hope people see it. And what I hope is that all these people that love to bitch online and talk shit and be mad about what's going on actually get out and vote. Because a lot of people bitch and moan and stuff, but they don't get off their ass and go vote. So, you know, that is what it is. I'll get off that topic for now. So.
Yeah, no worries. I was the one that brought it up, so that was my fault. But
I've just been, yeah, I know. It's all good, man. I've just been reading so much about it in the news, and it's becoming worse, and more people are aware of it. But every day I see it, and it's very frustrating, and it saddens me that the average American doesn't know what's happening, and they just don't pay attention. You know, so, you know, when you become a contractor, so are you kind of always, are you in like a pool of people where occasionally they still reach out and they're like, hey man, I got this, a gig at the border. I got a gig in, you know, you mentioned before that you got a dude that was going to like Africa for running blood diamonds or whatever. How often do you get reached out to for something like that?
I mean, not nearly as much anymore, but when the first book came out, people were like, are you still in the game? Are you still in the game? And I was like, dude, I'm not in the game. Oh, I got this, I got that. And I'm like, dude, I'm not in the game. Like, I am old. Everybody talks about like, let's get Blackwater back together. Let's get the band back together. And I was like, dude, we all have like walkers and oxygen tanks and crap now. Like, stop pretending like we're ready to rock and roll. So it happens every once in a while, but it's mostly on just like the social media platforms where you join a security group, and it's literally like this tiny little PMC that I've never heard of in Lubbock, Texas. And they're like $350 a day if you want to come escort minors. And the fun part is, and I'm going to get you back on a rant on accident, but
no, I won't. I'm done ranting.
What they'll do is they post it as logistics. It's a logistics job. Like you're moving bubblegum in pallets or Otis Spunkmeyer pallets, right? But you're literally moving kids, and it's like,
it's human
must be able to put it in a car seat, must be able to explain to, and it's like, dude, and it's charters, right? They're not putting most of these people on commercial flights. They're all charters. They're happening in the middle of the night, and it's right under everybody's nose, and we sit there and like it just doesn't get any publicity. So maybe you and I can be the publicity types, right? Like,
man, I hope people, it's getting more and more in the news. Even Democrats now are like, hey, this is fucking crazy. You know, like the, what's her name? The governor of Arizona. I keep thinking Tulsi Gabbard.
Katie Hobbs.
Katie Hobbs. She came out and was like, okay, we got to send the National Guard. But this is after Katie Hobbs decided the first thing she did as a governor was come in and remove the border, the temporary border that whoever the previous governor was had built. She said that was racist and inhumane. Now she's sending the National Guard down there because it's all fucked up. But yeah, I mean, I don't get it, man. I just don't get it what is happening. And we see all these people that are coming into the country that don't want to assimilate. Again, these aren't all just South American people either. These are like people from China. I think they had like 15,000 people since the start of the fiscal year that come in from China, Chinese males. Like what? Why do we need 15,000 more Chinese people that are going to come here? They're being human trafficked. They're going to get stuck in some shitty job. If they can't get a real job, they're going to get stuck in some kind of slave labor job here in the U.S. because they can't do anything else and they can't leave. You know, like, I don't get it, man. It's so crazy. Hopefully people get out and vote and just we got to do something because this is outrageous and it's going to affect everybody. The biggest thing for me is the housing. It really pisses me off. My rent just went up and I'm like, we have this fucking pressure on the housing here. And a lot of it has to do with millions of people coming into the country. So when, you mentioned earlier that, Blackwater was pissed that you wrote the book. What were they pissed about?
Part of it was the story where the widow got frustrated because she's like, this is not how I was told it happened. What the hell's the real story? She reached out to them. And then some of them were like, "Oh, so much you're being a silent professional," and I was like, "Dude, Eric Prince wrote a book." So there's a number of people that have written books about this. Like mine is just the last one for you guys to complain about. So a lot of the Blackwater guys were butthurt. Most that were there in like 04, 05 were like, dude, you kind of nailed it. Like looking back at how insane it was, you nailed it with the book. So shameless plug, of course, go get it. Guns, Girls, and Greed on Amazon now.
I'll put the
I was a Blackwater.
I'll put the link in the show description as well, so people can check it out there.
Yeah. So they got butthurt. They started kind of trying to fight me. They sent me a cease and desist because I used the Blackwater flag. Now here's the fun part about Blackwater. It doesn't exist.
I was gonna say, who owns Blackwater now? Because it went from that to Z to something else, right?
Yeah, so Blackwater went to Z to Academy. Then it got bought by Triple Canopy. That got bought by Constellus. Like there is no Blackwater. What they do have is they have a brand, and they license that brand to firearms and ammo, and they make cool little shirts, and they put it on like ashtrays and stuff. So that's all they are, is like a licensing for their brand with the bear paw. Great brand. Don't get me wrong. Like absolutely like the coolest brand. But that's what I didn't understand is like, I don't know. There's a lot of contractors. It's like being in the military where you get those guys that are like so hoorah and they've been in for like 20 something years. And you're like, what are you going to do on the outside? And then they can't assimilate.
Like that was it. This is it for me.
A lot of Blackwater guys are the same. Like they're still talking about like the glory days. And this was almost 20 years ago now. Like literally I got there in June 04. So I'm coming up on 20 years and people are still talking about Blackwater and getting the band back together. So I think a lot of them look at it like it was like their sacred cow and you don't mess with it. But that wasn't me. Like I was 23 years old, had a great time, helped me pay off of my undergraduate degree when the GI Bill didn't cover it all back then. So, I've moved on. I can't say that for everybody, but I hope they all do. I hope they all become like billionaires and stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I get the same. I've interviewed a few Delta guys, and there's always people in the comments who are like, "Oh, aside from professional, I suppose," and it's like literally the leader, the guy that started Delta, wrote a book. A sergeant major from Delta wrote a book. Like these aren't the first people that have come out and spoke about this. Like, in my opinion, as long as what they're talking about is unclassified, doesn't reveal any kind of trade secrets or whatever, then fuck it, man. Why aren't they allowed to tell their story? Because if they don't tell their story, then some fucking general or something's going to come out and write a book about how glorious his career was and he ordered this operation, and he'll tell their story for them from his point of view. But for some reason it's an issue when they do it. Like, let them fucking tell their story, make some money off of it. They earned it. They fucking put in the work and time and stuff like that. Did the deployments.
The frustration, dude, I've read so many military books and some of them are absolutely captivating. But they're either written by generals or they're written by reporters or they're written by politicians.
Yeah.
And they get into like the strategy, like, okay, and then I sent 3rd Brigade over to the west and then 2nd Brigade flanked over to the right. And like, that sucks. Nobody wants to hear that story.
I mean, there's people that are, but when you say I moved a brigade, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of individuals with individual stories. Like, why are they not allowed to talk about it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, so that's why I wrote the book. I was like, look, I was on the ground. I'll tell you exactly how it felt. And it's different than how Eric Prince saw it. It's different than how all the politicians saw it, the State Department. It's my book, right? So yeah, but people do get butthurt because I don't sugarcoat it either. It's not like I don't put Blackwater on a pedestal and say, oh, everything we did was so great and the war was won. And like at the end of the day, the reader should decide whether or not it was a good or a bad. And I just want to tell the story.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I agree. I mean, Blackwater got kind of a black eye, obviously, because of, what was it, reports of, like, they said they were, like, killing a bunch of people in some square or something like that in Iraq. I don't remember the details exactly. I know that's when they got a black eye from that. Do you put that, I mean, I don't know what you do for work. Are you just an author now? Or do you, like, I don't know if you look for work afterwards. Do you put that on your resume? And if you did, what did people that you, like, try to get jobs with, what did they say when they saw Blackwater?
So no, you don't put Blackwater on your resume. You just don't, because like I was a State Department contractor, right? So that's what you put. You don't put Blackwater. And when I left, I went and got my undergraduate degree, and then I went into the Army as an intel guy.
Yeah.
Got out as a captain, and then I went and got my graduate degree up at Tufts University. And after that, it's like I put enough distance between myself and Blackwater that it wasn't going to be a value add on my resume anyway.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Now, if I wanted to go work at the border, not to get you on a rant again,
Well.
yeah, Blackwater's going to be at the top of it, right? Like, I'm not going to put my master's degree.
Yeah. What are your degrees in?
So my undergraduate degree is in criminal justice because I was like, that's the fastest I can get out of college. And look, I'm the first one in my family to go to college. Not a huge fan of it. Yeah. So I got a criminal justice degree. It's '07, and the housing market is just melting. And I'm watching all these guys either go become cops or go work at Home Depot. And I was like, screw that. So I joined the ROTC, became an intel guy. And then once I got out, I was doing international security studies because I wanted to go work for the CIA. And I started talking to like the CIA guys, and then everybody's in DC or they're always deployed. And I was like, dude, I just got married. We're getting ready to have kids here. So I switched my degree over to international banking and finance so that I could have like a business acumen. So when I talk about the invasion earlier, like that's where my mind goes, is like, if we had 430,000 people come across the border, and on the beaches of Normandy had 150,000 troops, and it was only 50 miles, and the border is 2,000 miles. Like, how are we ever going to secure a border like that with that big of influx of people when the Germans couldn't keep us out of Normandy with an army? Like, you just can't.
Well, I don't think that you can never fully secure it. That's like the argument where people are like, look, people are climbing over the fence. Look at them. They can just throw a ladder up and climb over. Well, yeah, but how much did that slow them down? That's much better than them just walking across casually. Like, here I am. Come grab me and take me for my meal and my whatever. You know, that's, I don't know.
So, yeah, that's, once I got done with my graduate degree, I got completely out of the whole military industrial complex because I think it just kind of sucks you in, and it feels like a crutch that you can always go back to.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why I got out of the National Guard, because I didn't want to have a job in corporate America and then be like, oh, they want me to go to Germany for 6 weeks and bump out. And, oh, they want me to, go down and help for flood victims in Flagstaff. Like, it was never going to work for me to try to play both sides of the fence. Some people can do it. I just made that like clean separation. It's like when you fart and you cut it real quick, right? Like, you just gotta
in and out. Yeah, I thought that's kind of what my thought process was when I got out. I really considered going into the reserves. There's an Anglo unit not too far from here, and then I could literally just go be a JTAC and do stuff like that for the rest, however long I wanted. But I was like, the problem with that for me is, and reservists can chime in the comments what they think about this, but the problem for me was I was concerned that all the shit that I wanted to get away from was still going to be there. You know, the stupidity of like, maybe it's more relaxed. I think it is more relaxed depending on the unit and the reserves and stuff like that. But just like, I don't know. I just got tired of being told what to do by people that I thought were incapable, And that wasn't everyone, and that wasn't even the majority. There was tons of great officers and tons of great leadership, but there's also a lot of bad leadership. And the problem with bad leadership in the military is that they can affect your life. Not necessarily get you killed, which could happen for sure, but make stupid decisions that cause friction in your life that's unnecessary. Case in point, hey, you got to be at the rifle range. We're going to start shooting at 6 a.m. You got to be there at 2:30 a.m. to start drawing weapons. Like, what? And that's because someone's going to miss the timeline, and the weapons aren't going to get drawn in time, and this is going to happen. So because we're like facilitating the lowest common denominator, everybody gets fucked. And I'm like, this is stupidity. This is like, I was ready to just get away from all that and not like just big boy rules, live life. So I know what you're saying there. I mean, and I know they're not technically allowed to. You're not allowed to get fired for going and getting activated. And you're not supposed to get any kind of reprimand. But if you work in a corporate job and you're gone all the time doing your military thing, that's no different than a lady that gets pregnant and is gone for a long time to have her kid, you're missing out on this like growth within your industry, right? And like,
Yeah.
you're just not. I mean, you can't get in trouble for that. But the natural side effect is that you're not as prepared as the guy that was here the last 6 months that you missed.
Yeah, and when it comes to time for a promotion or you're looking at a different gig and you're going up against that guy and he has this something, you know, he did something cool in the last 3 months that really helped make the company money. And then you're like, yeah, but I was over in, you know, in the desert at JRTC and I was doing cool stuff too. But it's just like it doesn't translate. And I wish it did. I wish that wasn't the case, and it's illegal to be able to like stop a career progression or not bring people back in to the spot that they were after they were activated. But it does affect. It's the same thing from working from home versus working in an office. Like you're meeting people, you're seeing stuff, you overhear something and say, "Oh, I can help here," or "Oh, I can help there." If you're at home, you're not hearing that stuff. And I mean that's kind of the big push to get people back into the office. But it's very similar to, hey, I have to take off the next 6 days for, and they're like, what for? Oh, I got to be at the range at 2:30 a.m. so that I can shoot at 9 p.m. Like it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, a lot of people make it work. I mean, I know guys that got out, did the reserves, said, F this, stopped the reserves. And then we're like, wait, F this, I'm going back. Like I miss, you know, so it's a good opportunity for people that kind of still want to do what they were doing in the military, but also want to have a little bit more flexibility. I've heard, I don't know, you've been, I mean, you served. So in the Marine Corps, there was like a program called the Inactive Ready Reserves, which I hear is like a really good program because it's like you're a reservist, but you don't ever like deploy or anything. You're basically a guy there to like hold the reserve unit together or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but I've been told by multiple people that's like a hidden secret. That's like a really good career in the military.
There's a way to do it where, and IRR is usually you're not actively in the reserves, but they could call you back into it. But,
not IRR. Sorry,
yeah,
they're called active reserves.
Yeah. So active guard, active reserves. Those are the people that run the base on a daily basis, and like that is a great gig because you're on active duty, but they can't move you all over the place. Most of the time they need you at home when they're deploying anyway. The best one I've heard is if you want to do the part-time thing is you can join a program and it's through, I know that the Army and the Air Force have it, but you can do all your reserve time in one shot. So they'll be like, come on in, it's 20 days, get it all done, like 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, maybe it's 3 weeks, whatever the heck it is. And then you're done and you're done for the year. And that's what I would do. Just get it over with, right? Pull the Band-Aid off.
Another thing too that I would be afraid of is that I like what I'm doing and I'd constantly want to be working and I'm like, well, I'm in the reserves and they're going to limit the amount, you know, they're not going to activate you all the time to do stuff, you know, as much as you want. I wouldn't imagine.
Well, I joined the reserves in '99 when they didn't have any money. It was the Air National Guard. So I think it's getting back to that point where that spigot is being slowly turned off and you can't just raise your hand and go somewhere for 6 months, which is for people that have joined up after September 11th. That's new to them, right? Like for me, they were like, we can't pay for your mileage. And I was like, well, I'm driving like 150 miles to get here and 150 back. We don't have the budget for your miles. And then September 11th happened, and it's like, we got the budget for everything. And they were just making it rain like T-Pain.
What school do you want to go to? You know, like what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah. No, that's a huge thing is funding. I've heard of Marine units now that are low on ammo, you know, and they're out here doing training and not getting the amount of ammo they need. Like guys getting like saw gunners not getting a full saw drum of ammo and stuff to shoot with, like they're sharing drums or whatever, they're only giving them like a certain amount because there's just no money for that. And that's the kind of stuff I'm like, I don't know, it kills me that we don't have money for that. But then you drive around base and you see all these like building projects and stuff like that for stupid shit and, you know, brand new PX. Oh, cool. How about, can we get AC in the barracks? How about that? You know, like it's hot out here in SoCal. I remember that, you know, like, I don't know. I guess I can't complain. I got out. I should have stayed in and, you know, be the change, I suppose.
Yeah. So when I became an officer, I was like, I'm going to be the change. And then you come in and you're a second lieutenant and they're like, shut up, LT. And I'm like, hold on, I've been around the block. And then you make captain and you're like, okay, now I can actually be the change. And it's like, shut up. Like I don't know where you have to get to be the change.
At the
I just
top.
know that I wasn't willing to put in the next 20 years to figure out how I could change something when it's not really going to change anyway. Like the military is the military.
You're basically, I mean, you're always junior to somebody, right? You're always answering to
Yeah.
somebody. Like, I remember one time I was at Fob Marja, and at Fob Marja, there was no running water, and there was no bathrooms. We had piss tubes, and we had this thing that we called like a blast wall, where they took like 2 pieces of corrugated tin and just dug them into the ground, and you just pissed against a corrugated tin. You stood on this metal grate, and like every couple of days, the BAS would come out there and like sprinkle lime on it or something to keep the smell down and the flies and shit. And I remember one time we had a general visiting. A bunch of like higher ups were coming out because they were going to tout how well Marja was doing and all the projects that were being taken care of. And the general came and talked to us in the command center. And then they left, and I'm sitting there for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I got to go take a piss. So I walk out to go take a piss, and the general is at the blast wall. And I'm like, well, fuck it, I got to piss. So he's like walking up to it at the same time I am. And they're getting ready to go outside the wire to go out to the bazaar. And I remember the general took his flak jacket off and turned around and shoved it into this full bird colonel's chest and was like, hold this. And this colonel's just sitting there holding this dude's flak while he's pissing. And I'm like, man, like you get shit on no matter what. Like this dude's a full bird colonel and just got like, hold this in front of all these people. I was like, I don't know. Maybe that sounds innocuous to a lot of people, but in the moment I was like, damn, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, no, that hurts. That hurts.
Like, that's fucked up. Hold my thing while I take a piss. Fuck that loser.
Quite literally, can you hold it over, shake it 3 times when I'm done?
Yeah, dude, you're always junior to somebody. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's why I got out too. You know, it was like because of that, you have morons in charge and people that will hinder your career progression or won't let you go to schools or whatever. They're not looking out for your best interests. For maybe because they're just a moron and they don't understand what your best interest is, or maybe they don't like you and they're holding something back. You know, like I don't know. It just got really tired. I got really tired of being, you know, Staff Sergeant Kramer. Like, you know, any officer can come up and say whatever he wants to me and say, you know, like he can disregard whatever, like just because I'm a staff sergeant and they have zero experience. And it's like what really put the sour taste in my mouth was going on ship. Being on a ship, being on a Navy ship is very class oriented. You have your officer's deck, you have your officer mess, you have the chief's mess, and then you have everybody else. And if you're in the everybody else crowd, life fucking sucks. You're waiting 30 minutes to an hour and a half to do laundry. You're stacked into a room. It's just hundreds of people. Like we had 115 people in this super tiny room, probably I don't even know, maybe 500 square feet. It's just. And having that, being treated like that, where in the Marine Corps, when I was deployed, my captains, you know, I slept by them. We all slept in the shitty fucking, in the dirt. We all ate the same shitty food. We all, you know, it was all very much a team. Where in the Navy side, when I went on the MEU, it was not like that. And I was like, I'm not going to do this again. And then when they, you know, and that's why I decided to get out, so.
Well, and then you have the career guys that are like, well, it works for me, so I'm not going to send you to this cool school because I didn't get to go to it. I mean, it is political in the military. I'm not going to sit here and talk crap about the military. I loved part of it. I loved it. Just loathed part of it. But at the end of the day, like it paid for a couple of degrees and set me up on a pretty neat little life journey, which I outline, of course, in the book, Guns, Girls, and Greed. Look at that shameful plug.
I like it.
Shameless. Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm a digital marketing guy. I appreciate that. I can appreciate a good marketing campaign. Yeah, I don't know. It's I would do it again. I would join the Marines again. You know, if the option was given to me, I would do it again because it was a once in a lifetime experience and doing things that you'll never do in the real world. And if you could do it in the real world, it would cost a ton of money. You know, I mean, I remember going out to the range and just getting 20,000 rounds there was 20 of us. There was like 20, 25 of us. And here's 20,000 rounds of machine gun ammo, rifle ammo. Have a heyday. Staff Sergeant Kramer, you got it. You're in charge. You know, like, imagine getting 20
grenades. Like
yeah.
You're never going to get to throw a grenade again. You're never going to You're never gonna have that many round. $5 a round if you want it, or like a buck something a round if you want it. And then if you want it linked, you have to have a special. Like, yeah, you get to do stuff that you will never ever get to do.
I mean, you shoot machine guns and stuff enough where people are just tired of shooting machine guns.
Oh
They don't
God.
want to shoot it anymore. And I'm like, I remember we brought out some admin kids with us, and they were like, I say kids, guys and girls, and they were like, we were on a range just shooting and shooting, just kept giving them box of ammo, and they're like, I saw two of them sitting over by themselves and telling like, hey, go out there, you guys want to shoot, keep shooting, or you can start police calling. And they're like, we'll just start police calling. And I'm like, you'd much rather police call brass than fucking go shoot the 240? Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. But whatever, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, what September is the expend all where you go out there, they give you like 5,000 rounds and you just plug it away. And the first few, you're like, I'm going to aim. And then after like 100 rounds, you're like, all right, now I'm just going to like drop as much as I can. And by the time you're at like 900, your shoulder hurts. It's got a big bruise on it. And you're like, okay, this cool thing is not fun. It's like that saying, like for every supermodel out there, there's a guy that's tired of fucking her. And it's got to be the same. Like for every machine gunner out there, there's one that's tired of doing it.
Yeah, because they're like, fuck, I got to clean this after. We just put thousands of rounds through this. Now we got to go clean it. That's going to take a while. Yeah, it's I did not like that aspect of the military. That's one thing I always thought was pretty fucked up. It's like a corporation. Here's your budget for the quarter. If you don't spend your budget, you're not going to get as much next quarter. So you'll see units buying stupid shit and stuff like that when there's a surplus, like at the end of the quarter. It's like, well, why are you spending it on that? I remember one time when I was at 210, we got a call from the S1 or whoever, maybe it was S4, I don't know. And they were like, hey, get your government card and go down to the, what do they call it? Not ServMart. Maybe it was ServMart. It was like almost like a Lowe's or Home Depot on base, but it was you use a government charge card, the unit's government charge card, not like a travel charge card. And that's, you could go down there and buy boots for the unit. You could do different stuff, buy equipment that the unit needs and shit. And they're like, basically go spend whatever you want because we have a huge surplus this quarter and we have to spend it all by the first. And it was like, people were just buying crazy stuff. And I'm like, this is so fucked up. This feels like fraud, waste, and abuse of taxpayer money. Like that you're just saying, go buy shit or go expend all the ammo. Hey, you have this much ammo. It has to be gone by the end of the fiscal year. As a JTAC, that happened one time where the Air Wing contacted us and they're like, hey, we have too many bombs. We got to go drop them. And literally, we had guys go out to the OP out in like Arizona and sit on the OP and just watch them just dropping 500-pound bomb, 500-pound bomb, 1,000-pound, just over and over again because these were allotted to them for training. And the end of the fiscal year's coming, and we didn't use them, so we have to, exactly what you're talking about. And it was like, what a fucking waste. How much JTAC training could we have gotten out of that? And because of whatever mismanagement or whatever, now we're dropping all these bombs in 1 or 2 days just to get rid of them. Thousands and thousands of pounds of bombs.
Millions of dollars in bombs. Millions and millions. But yeah.
Crazy. Well, maybe not millions because I think most of them were dumb bombs. But yeah, when you start attaching those, GBU-38, the JDAM kits and the laser JDAMs and stuff like that, that's when they really start to get expensive. But yeah, man, I don't know. Maybe you saw the other side as an officer, so you probably understand the funds side of it more, but I just didn't get it.
Well, I was Air Force enlisted, and then I went Army officer, and they were pretty close to each other. I'm not gonna lie to you. So yeah. It depends. It depends on which service you're in and how they treat their people. But yeah, if my kids ever want to go in the military, they're going to the Air Force because my grandfather told me straight up. So he was a World War II vet in the Army, and he's like, "Go into the Air Force. They have the best food." And I was like, "That's good enough for me."
That shit's for real too.
This was like 1999. Like there was no war on the horizon, so it was just like go in and go do something to get life experience and learn, and they had better food. And I was like, better food.
Yeah, I would tell my kid probably Air Force or Space Force. Like if he's just interested in the military in general, my general advice is for the Marine Corps wise, like you have to want it. Like you can't just go join the Marine Corps. That's one of those things you have to want it because if not, you're gonna have a miserable time. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you have to buy into the, Semper Fi kind of thing for a little while, at least to kind of make it. But it's not because you're doing more with less and all this other shit and the ridiculous, like, uniform standards and stuff like that. it's something I always tell people, like, it's cool if you want it, join the Marine Corps. If you don't want the Marine Corps specifically, you know, pick one of the other branches, because that's something you got to want.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know where we were going with that, but yeah, joining the Marine Corps. I would tell my kid, if he doesn't want it, join the Space Force. I think that's an interesting, be a part of creating traditions and stuff that will be lifelong, you know, not lifelong, but legacies that will extend the life of the service, you know, like what traditions and stuff, you can be part of that. So I think that's cool. But yeah, man, I don't know. What was your master's degree in? Did you say what that one was?
Yeah, it was international banking and finance.
Oh, okay. I thought that was your bachelor. Sorry.
It was like any kind of data, and how do you pretend like you're not Enron every month?
Yeah, man, just doing a lot of spreadsheets and stuff, right? Are you keeping up? Do you mess with international banking or anything like that anymore? Do you keep up with overseas markets?
No, I mean, you get your bachelor's degree and your master's degree to get your first job.
Yeah.
Once you get your first job, that's what gets you your second job, right? So everybody that I've talked to is like, you know, I've talked to people that are doctors that are like, yeah, I do operations for a hospital. It's like they're not actively doctoring anymore, and that's really, I see it more and more as I progress through like my civilian career. Is you have people that are like, oh, I'm an engineer. Well, what do you do? I teach at the college. What do you teach? Philosophy. Like it's really, I mean, once you get that first job, then you can kind of start navigating through what you want to do and what you get passionate about. All right. Like if I was trading stocks on Wall Street, I'd be losing my mind. Like, it sounds like a horrible job.
Yeah. I mean, it's high pressure. It's one of those, I remember back in the day when they actually did all the traders on the floor, and you'd see like at the end of a bad day, the look on all the traders' faces on the news and stuff like that. And it's like, it's not like that as much anymore. There's not as many actual traders down there, but I don't know. That would be a high pressure job. One of my teachers said that he worked at a stock exchange as a, when he was in college, he did it as a, what's it called? Internship. And he's like, every day the guys would leave the stock exchange and there was like a bar across the street and they just walk straight over there, like pound 2 shots and be like, all right, another day done, you know, like what the fuck, dude, that's a crazy lifestyle. Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess that's really it. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to go over? I mean, we talked about the book, talked about your time as a contractor, some of the stuff that contracting is going on now.
Talked about the border, talked about the craziness of having written a book and what happened. Yeah, no, I think.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. Since you were a witness in an FBI investigation, there's a lot of hate going around for the FBI right now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how were you? I mean, talk us through the investigation itself and how you think it was handled.
You know, I'm sure that the DOJ has been politicized. You see it every day, and that just wasn't how it went for me. The FBI guy reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we're looking for these pictures. Where were they? Who are you with?" Like, and then I did like a 10-page witness statement, showing the pictures and explaining where we were and how it differed from what Matt Marshall was saying that it did. So I have nothing but good things to say about my encounter with it. I'm sure that if I was like waving a flag outside of the U.S. Capitol and they came and knocked on my door, I probably wouldn't have the same feeling about it. But I'm not going to trash them. They were fine with me. But
yeah. Oh, I'm not asking you to either. I don't want people to think that's what I.
No.
There are people that are upset. I mean, man, did you see the? Now they're saying they're going to start prosecuting people that didn't even go in the Capitol. Just the people that were at the Capitol during the protests are going to start looking at those people. I'm like, that's crazy. That's a little, I don't know.
It's a bit much. I would, if you were over there, no judgment, but if you have pictures of it, I would take those off of Facebook. That would be my.
There was some chick that went on Kill Tony. I don't know if you've heard of Kill Tony. It's a comedy. It's a comedy podcast. They bring on people to do like 1-minute sets. And there was this chick that came on there and talked about how she was there at the Capitol. She came on twice and was like, yeah, I was at the Capitol. They fucked us, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, she did her bit, and that's what she was known for. Well, the FBI found her through those videos and went and arrested her. I was like, damn, dude, that's crazy, dumbass. Like, why are you coming on? Why would you go and do, like, you know, basically throw it in their face that you didn't get caught or whatever? I don't know. My take on, for anybody that wonders, my take on January 6th is this. If you broke shit and you did some shit like that, then, you know, you deserve to get punished. If you were just there protesting and you didn't do anything, then, you know, whatever. When that happened, I was recording a podcast. I'd have to go back and look at who it was with, and I think it was Benbow. I think it was with Charlie Benbow. I could be wrong though. And the whole event occurred, I think, began and ended in the span it took me to record a podcast. I remember like watching TV beforehand while I was getting set up, and then getting the interview, doing the interview, and then when we got off, the dude texted me and was like, "Dude, you see what happened? Like, have you seen the news?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I get on there, and they'd already secured the Capitol again and everything like that. So in this like 3-hour time frame was like, so that's why to me it's not as significant. Like these people that are saying it's as bad as 9/11, it's as bad as Pearl Harbor. Like, shut the fuck up. No, it wasn't, dude. It was literally over in a few minutes. One person was killed. That Ashley Babbitt chick. Like the tweets and stuff from government officials that were like, I was cowering in my office. I was so afraid. It's like, fucking shut up, dude. Like, that's so crazy. But again, if you were beating cops and shit, then you should probably go to jail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to call it out for protesters and rioters during like BLM riots, which were legitimate riots, if they should have been arrested, then those guys should have been arrested. And you can't say, well, they weren't arrested on those BLM riots and stuff like that. So why are these people... We gotta, at some point, someone's got to be held accountable. If that's the case, they're beating cops there, arrest them, and then I hold the same standard across the board. You know what I'm saying? Peaceful protesting is fine and shit, but when you get out there and start being violent, destroying things, catching things on fire, you should definitely go to jail for that. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% in agreement. It's some of it's going a little bit too far if they're looking at people that were just standing outside, but yeah.
We got to stop listening to the extremists on both the left and the right. There's too many people, that are driving the conversation that are just so out of their minds. You know, they're very like, you're either with us or against us kind of mentality, and that's both on the Republican side and on the Democrat side. We got to stop listening to those people, and people with common sense come out and talk. You know, be more sociable, talk through issues, and do stuff. You know, have conversations. We're having conversations. I think if people don't think I'm being reasonable about what I said about the border and stuff like that, feel free to drop it in the comments, or anything. The January 6th stuff, feel free to drop that in the comments. I think there should be reasonable debate. I don't delete comments on YouTube. I had someone accuse me of that the other day. They're like, "Oh, you deleted my comment." I'm like, "No, I don't delete any comments on YouTube. I let them." There's Taliban guys that comment on some of the videos, so if I'm deleting any of them, it'd be those, but I don't. So, I guess we'll just wrap it up. Morgan, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Where can people, is Amazon the only place to get your book pre-ordered right now, or do you have it up on a website or anything?
No, go on Amazon and grab it there is the easiest way to do it. And then we've got the audio coming out. Should be somewhere right around the launch date of February 6th. And then, you know, you can get it Barnes and Noble. Once they get it like a big publisher, they'll have all the links to be able to get it. So you can just type in Guns, Girls, and Greed, or you can type in my name, and there's a litany of places you can get it for pre-order right now. And then after September 6th, you can get it, and it'll be shipped to you on Prime, 2-day Prime.
Nice. That's cool, man. What's your socials?
I am Blackwater Dude 1.
Blackwater Dude 1 on Instagram. Any other ones?
Instagram, TikTok, and on X, which still can't figure X out. I'm like, it's
how so?
Well, it's like how do you get followers on X? And I just can't get.
Yeah,
wrap my noodle around it.
I'm on there all the time. I'm on X, Twitter, if you will, on there all the time, and I comment some on stuff, but I'm mostly, I think, unless you're like a outlandish voice constantly commenting, you're not really going to get a lot of followers on there. That's my least. I have the least amount of followers, I think, is on X. I think I have like 250. Compare that to over 19,000 or on one page on Instagram, and then another, I don't even know how many thousand on the other one. So that's, yeah, if I put it on the page, if people want to follow me on X, they can. I've been, I think I'm going to try to be more vocal about my opinion this year, because I think we have to. I'm not going to rehash everything we already talked about, but I think we have to. I think if you have common sense ideas, you got to put them out there. And then, my last thing will be telling people to go vote, man. It's going to be coming up in a few months. You can't bitch if you don't go vote. And when you're voting, you got to look at your local elections, because that's what really affects your day to day. The people that make parking meters, the people that take away parking spots and put in bike lanes like we've had here in San Diego, shit like that. That's local stuff. If you're not looking at your local elections, if you're only looking at the presidential election, you're doing yourself, a disservice. So look at those. I'm not telling you who to pick, but, do your homework. When you're not doing that, check out my website, jkramergraphics.com. My Instagram's @FormerActionNews, @FormerActionGuys, both of those. And that's it, man. It's been a lively conversation.
It's been a pleasure, Justin. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man.